We are going to continue multiplying fractions. And today is going to be a little bit different. We're going to be writing sentences for those area models that we have been drawing. So let's take a look at number 1, letter B, here in lesson 15, okay? Now, this problem says 3/4 of 4/5. Now the same steps are still going to apply, and we are going to draw our area model for these. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to draw an area model of 4/5, and that gives me 4/5. Now let me go ahead and label that. Okay, and that is 4/5. Now my next step is that it wants me to take 3/4 of those 4/5. So how we're going to do that is simply by cutting 3 lines across to create 4 new sections. And now 3/4 of that would be this much. That would be 3/4. So what I'm really looking at is this much of what's already shaded in. So let's count up how many we have in total. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12 in total. So when we write that out using a fraction sentence, this is what it would look like. It would be 3/4 times 4/5 is equal to 3 times 4 all over 4 times 5. And now we can simply just multiply these numbers and we can get our answers to see if what we just did is correct. So let's go ahead and multiply that. 3 times 4 is 12. 4 times 5 is going to give me 20. Now that is exactly what we got with our area model, so our answer does check off. So it's pretty simple. The only extra step is going to be writing this portion out. So if it's still a little unclear, let's do another one and hopefully it helps you out. Okay, so our first step is still going to be drawing out an area model here. And this area model is going to have 2/3, 2 sections shaded in. All right, now we have to take 3/4 of that. Let's do that in hot pink here. 3/4 of that would look something like this much. 3/4. So of what is already shaded in, we are going to take this much of it right up to these sections. So let's see how much we have in total here. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 total units that we're going to be having here. So let's go ahead and write out our multiplication sentence and see if our answer checks out. So 3/4 times 2/3 is the same as 3 times 2 over 4 times 3, which is equal to 6 over 12. Now, some of you might be looking at this fraction, and in your head, you're starting to realize that you could reduce that further. So if you know how to reduce, go ahead and reduce that fraction. But if you still aren't seeing the pattern, it's completely fine. Don't worry about reducing. What's important is that you connect this with this, okay? The reducing fraction, reducing fractions isn't as important as figuring out how to multiply using an area model, okay? But if you know how to reduce, you know that you can divide the top number by 6 and the bottom number by 6 as well. 6 divided by 6 will give me 1, and 12 divided by 6 will give me 2. So really your answer would be 1/2, but either of these would work as well. Okay, let's go ahead and do a word problem to see what kind of steps we would take for those. Oh, I also want to mention that for number 2, it is asking you to multiply. And right here it's saying draw a rectangular fraction model if it helps you, or use the method in the example. So here, if you notice, all they did is just simply multiply. Okay, now they did take an extra step here that can be a little confusing. So if you're looking at this step and you don't understand it, I wouldn't even worry about it. I would just go ahead and multiply how we did in the previous problems, okay? Let's take a look at 4 here. It says, Santino bought a 3/4 pound bag of chocolate chips. He used 2/3 of the bag while baking. How many pounds of chocolate chips did he use while baking? Okay, let's take a look at this problem. So the first thing I'm going to do is draw out a full pound bag of chocolate chips, okay? Because I know that Santino bought 3/4 of a pound of a bag. So let's draw out what a full bag would look like. So I'm going to do that here in blue. Now this is going to be worth 1 whole, and Santino bought 3/4 of a pound of chocolate chips, okay? So that means that he bought, this is how much he bought. 3/4 of, let's put cc for chocolate chips. And then it's telling me that he used 2/3 of the bag while baking. So let's do that here in red. That he used 2/3 of the bag while baking. Okay, so once we take 2/3 of the 3/4 that we already drew out, we can find out exactly how much he used. So let's take 2/3 of this by doing this. We just cut it into thirds, and let's take 2/3 of that. So 2/3 would be this many. 2 out of 3. And it would be exactly this much of what's already shaded in. So in total we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So Santino got 6 out of 12. Now, if you're wondering, why would it be 6 12s? And you're wondering where that 12 comes from, let me go ahead and show you. The 12 comes from the total units or squares that we have inside of our area model. If you keep counting here, If we're already at 6, then we got 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. Okay? So if you're confused about that, just know that the total number of units goes at the bottom of our fraction. Okay? Or however many units you need to make a whole in that fraction. So all we would have to do now is write a multiplication sentence for this problem. And that is pretty easy. So let's go ahead and do that. So we have 3/4 times 2/3 is equal to 3 times 2 all over 4 times 3, which is the same as 6 over 12. Now again, if you can reduce that fraction, go ahead and reduce that for extra points. Just kidding, you get the same points, but if you can do that, bonus points in your head. Okay, so now you would just answer it in a complete sentence. And boom, you just got the answer for that problem. So I hope this tutorial helps, and if you are stuck in any of these, feel free to come to my office hours. But if you feel good, then you feel good. Take care and be safe out there. See you next video.